So for learning target 6, we're checking out Newton's second law of motion. We got two parts here. We want to state what the law says and also create a word problem, and then we want to actually solve it, so show our math skills. Remember, as we're working through every learning target, we're keeping an eye on these key words over here, and we want to use them, incorporate them into our explanation, and then every time we use them, we also want to get them highlighted. So these are our must-use words. So second law, we don't have a clear, nice catchphrase like we do with the first law, object in motion stays in motion. Second law is thinking about the relationship between three variables, and those variables are force, mass, and acceleration. And so what we want to write about here is looking at if one of these variables changes, how does that impact the others? So some sentence starters we can think about are if force, and then you can decide in your sentence if you want to say increase or decrease. I'll let you decide. So if force increases or decreases, then what do we know is going to happen to acceleration? So you can pause and write out that statement, thinking about, if you push harder on an object, what's that going to do to its acceleration? If you have less of a force, what will that do? So acceleration will also see an increase or decrease. Same thing for mass. If mass, and then you can again decide if mass increases or decreases, then again, what do we see happening to acceleration? And you can always include in there an example. So think about times when a mass would change or when a force would change, and what we would notice then about the acceleration. So every time we use one of these key words, again, we're getting it highlighted in our explanation. Down here, we're writing a word problem. So what you want to do is think about an object and what the object is doing. And you're going to write it out in a word problem. So we had a couple last week in the notes about like the Batmobile or about Brett Favre. We had a helicopter, we had a boat. It could be an animal. So whatever the object is, give a little explanation to what it's doing, and then you're going to include two variables in your word problem. So maybe you'll include force and mass and say solve for acceleration, or maybe you'll include acceleration and mass and say solve for force. So again, it just depends on what you'd like to do. You get to make up these numbers. So you get to decide what the values of mass, force, or acceleration are. So you're going to include two of those variables, and then you're going to show how you solve for the missing one, making sure that you're showing and using that formula. Awesome, let's do it.